remember performing Hush here on campus in the Commonwealth Auditorium. And it was a small audience. It was for a particular class, for one of my college classes. And one of the students came up to me in tears and just said, "I've never seen anything like that."
Yeah, wonderful.
And then she started telling me her story about her.
Yeah. So
and it's those moments, I think, that are encouraging. I wouldn't say that they're the proudest moment, but they're encouraging. It's like, okay, I need to keep working.
Yeah.
I need to keep doing what I do.
A moment that stands out to me as Leah just shared that story. I was at the University of Notre Dame, and I was there on a residency, created some work at the Segura Art Center, which I think is no longer in existence. And I created this piece called Rosa Sparks. And while I was there, before I got there, they asked if I would be on a PBS special with some kids that were showing up to the studio to do a little spot. And they said, "Are you comfortable working with kids?" And we have them in there. Is it possible you can do a little workshop with them? And I said, "Absolutely." So the kids came in there, and I got this little thing I do and a little chant I do. And I had the kids doing call and response, and I'm just bopping, I'm making fun with the kids, and we singing songs, we dancing, and the kids are just having a ball. Now, but I noticed in watching this, they had like 3 cameras on us from PBS, and they had a whole audience of kids in front of me, and there were several adults kind of like behind them, girding them. But there was one adult who was just having about just as much fun as the kids. And she caught my eye, you know, and so I'm sitting there talking, I'm sharing with them and so forth. And then it got to a breaking point where he wanted to hear me talk about my art piece. So I moved back to the piece and I'm telling him about Rosa Sparks. And I said, right now I'm tentatively calling this piece Rosa Sparks. That woman who I just told you about, who was all jumping about, she immediately broke down, like she covered her face and walked off out of the crowd. It startled me for a minute. It took me a minute to get my composure back because I see this woman walk off. You know, I caught that in the corner of my eye. And I finished it off and I said the stuff and I went into the symbolism of the piece. And I called it Rosa Sparks because it was about Rosa Parks and the fact that Rosa Parks' life was a spark. That sparked that whole movement in the bus boycott.
It's lovely play with the words. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. And so I made that piece for that. And so right when they finished, it's like, cut. They said, "Oh, that was great. Wonderful job with the kids." I beeline to that woman to check in on her. I said, "Hey," I said, "everything okay?" And she was standing there. She just waving her hands in front of her face and tears streaming. And she's trying to keep her composure. And she said, then she just began to bear to me her story. She said, "This morning, I could not get out of bed. And I wasn't going to come here today." And I said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "Everything all right?" And she said, "I was depressed." She said, "But something told me to get up and to come." And I said, "Okay, I'm so glad you made it here." She said, you were here for me." And I said, "Wow." And I said, "That's good." And I said, you know, and of course, I left that in God's hand because that's the Holy Spirit work. And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful." And she said, "When I'm seeing you doing this work with these kids and the way you were engaged with them, you're just affirming that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm supposed to be working with these kids and sharing the way in which you just did, what you showed." And I said, "Oh, that's wonderful. I'm so glad you received the word from it." And she said, "And then you said my name." And I'm like, I said, "What?" I said, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I'm Sparks." And in both of us,
No.
That was her name.
Wow.
What are the odds?
But of course, what's also lovely about that is it's an example of art leading not just to, "Oh, I had a nice experience,"
Yes.
but this is actually making a difference. You know, it's going to turn into action.
Yes.
That's it's wonderful. But what, as you say, what a coincidence! Unbelievable.
That's what I was trying to get to. Is that this is our everyday ministry. It's so for there to be one moment, I can't think of.
No. It's an unfair question. I just wanted the stories you mentioned. Don't worry, we'll try to include those because the stories you mentioned are just the kind of thing I had in mind. I mean, there are times, perhaps proud isn't. It suggests you kind of boasting about it or whatever. But I can think of times myself, very similar things, when it's always out of the blue. Suddenly someone reacts to something you've done and you realize, whoa, this is a bit bigger than I thought it was. Hey,
It is.
You really have taken this seriously. It's a come on. It's a and as a teacher, I'm a teacher as well, but it's that moment when the student or pupil takes what you've done and then, as it were, recreates it in some form. Remakes it into something even better or different, or applies it or whatever in a way that you didn't command or suggest or direct at all. It's that, and as you say, that's Holy Spirit. That's the Spirit improvising on what you put down there.